One of the hardest challenges people have is to forgive, says prize-winning journalist Antoinette Bosco. She acknowledges that her life, a mixture of sorrow and joy, has been supported by her faith in God, which continues to deepen and grow to sustain her. Rebecca Drake now has our story.
Catholic columnist and author Antoinette Bosco brought her down-to-earth humor and deep faith to the Springfield Diocese last April as the keynote speaker at the 4th Annual Catholic Women's Conference. In a sit-down interview with Catholic Communications, Antoinette shared details of her struggles as a young single mother in the 1950s and 60s and her spiritual journey in the aftermath of the most tragic of losses, the death of 2 of her children. Antoinette, thank you so much for doing the interview with us today. The details of your life sound like something out of a novel. A mother and a husband with mental illness, a divorce that left you with 6 children to raise alone, and the most devastating loss for a parent, the loss of 2 children. Where was God and your Catholic faith when all of these things were happening?
I don't know if I'd ever have an answer that would be, oh, good, I got the answer. You know, that I don't believe that would happen. I think that I had to find out for myself where God was and all of that. And in all honesty, I think I finally got to the point where I said, well, maybe God wasn't with them in the way I would have liked God to be with them, but God was with me because I survived. I survived, and because I survived, my other children could survive, too.
The daughter of Italian-American parents Joseph and Mary Oppadesano, Antoinette Bosco entered into an arranged marriage when she was just 19. She had given birth to 6 children and adopted another son by the time she was divorced in 1966. With a husband who rarely worked and neglected his family, she also had discovered a talent for writing and published her first article in 1952.
I wrote an article, How It Feels to Nurse a Baby, and I sent it off to Baby Talk magazine. And almost immediately they sent me $30. Now that was in January of 1952. You know how much money that was? That was a man's weekly pay in 1952. So I got $30. So I said to myself, oh, I got to be a writer because I'll be able to support my kids, you know?
Antoinette's writing career, always deeply informed by her unwavering Catholic faith, grew to include more than 200 magazine articles, thousands of newspaper stories, a syndicated national column, and 14 books. But along with her professional success, she also experienced personal tragedy. In 1991, her youngest son, Peter, who suffered from bipolar disorder, committed suicide at age 27. And in 1993, her 40-year-old son, John, and his wife were murdered as they slept in their newly purchased home in Montana.
I could never, ever for a minute try to lessen that. There is no way, there's no way. It is a complete permanent loss, and something happens inside of you that does change a great deal, that you live with something that you never dreamed you'd have to live with, that loss of a loved one.
Working through her sorrow and anger, Antoinette says she learned to focus on the years she did have with her sons instead of agonizing about those she had lost.
And you are focusing on time, the wrong thing to focus on. You should focus on life. Peter had a life, and you shared his life. That's what was important.
Through her writing, Antoinette has emphasized the messages of mercy and God's love. She has spoken against the death penalty and in talks around the country urges families of murder victims to focus on the gift of their loved ones' lives.
You had them. They were there, and that was the gift. And don't worry about the time, because there is no time. We call it eternity. That means without time. Where God is, there is no time.
As a speaker at the Catholic Women's Conference, Antoinette says she hoped to let the women know that they are not alone in the practice of their faith.
Because Catholic women are everywhere. We are in our homes, We are the parents. We take care of our children, you know. We have jobs. We're kind of like everywhere, you know, and so everywhere we go, we can make a difference.
In her presentations, Antoinette says she hopes most of all to encourage listeners to be proud of their faith and to never stop talking to God.
Even when everybody else is walking away from you, God isn't. The Lord Jesus is still with you. Now, maybe some people say, well, that's because you believe and that's your imagination. But I really believe it. I really do believe it.
And at age 82, Antoinette Bosco continues to share her conversations with God through her writing and speaking engagements. For Reel to Reel, I'm Rebecca Drake.